back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
And yes, we're back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton, joined today in the studio with Jim Doyle, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group. And on Boomer Life today, we've been talking about how a well-thought-out plan for your financial future is an integral part of building the life that you want for both yourself and for your family. And Jim, just before the break, we were speaking on some of the dynamics of family-owned businesses and some of the unique challenges that are brought forth in that situation. So whether we're running a family-owned business or our own family's finances, we probably feel that we're trying to do everything we can. Yet perhaps the one thing that we're not doing is actually working with an advisor who could in turn help us accomplish more.
You know, Joanne, in my experience, it's important to find the right fit. The person that's going to take an interest in what you're doing and why. Interview a couple of advisors. Get a sense of how they work and how they help you make decisions, what their communication and contact strategies are going to look like. Find somebody who focuses on the things that keep you up at night.
Isn't that why we want to hire an advisor, so the advisor can actually shoulder some of that worry about the things that keep us from realizing our goals, and those things, as you said, keep us up at night? Having them come up with strategies, like having an advisor come up with strategies or action plans that are going to help protect us. It's so important to understand all the hows and the whys.
Well, exactly. We risk repeating history if we don't understand how and why we make our investment decisions. Often, anxiety comes from a shortfall in knowledge, or not doing everything that we can in our own situation, like sticking to a budget, or setting and meeting goals. With proper planning in place, worry doesn't need to play a lead role in your financial decisions.
So if I've been paying attention, which I've been trying to do, before opening your wallet, make sure that your decision isn't going to come back to hurt you. So think about it before you take an action. It's about finding the right people to help you through this. You want someone who's invested in your personal situation, someone who's invested in you, in me, someone who's going to help take the time and maybe help take on some of the hard work as well. We know that many of the clients that you work with are financially comfortable. Would it be fair to say that wealthier investors comfortably understand risk and volatility and have safeguards in place?
I think this is one of those myths. It might surprise you to hear, but just because people have money doesn't always mean that they're comfortable with their investment knowledge or understand their investments. As for safeguards, it starts with understanding where someone is coming from and what's truly important to them. Only then can we talk about putting safeguards in place to preserve their estate values or their standard of living. I think the real problem still comes from people not understanding the difference between risk and volatility. One thing that I do in my practice is to help investors understand risk better, what risk is, what it means to them, and what their options are. I'm absolutely convinced that if people understood risk better, that they might have the tools to make better choices. And it's the emotional side of the brain that makes most of the decisions, and it doesn't understand statistics or percentages very well.
When it comes to managing investment emotions, why is it better to work with an advisor than going it alone?
I think a lot of investors are terribly conflicted. Okay? There's that fear of losing money, and then there's the equal fear of missing out on an opportunity to make money. When you add in the financial noise, that's the media, the pundits, perhaps that brother-in-law, and the volume of information that passes for knowledge, it's understandable that there's difficulty in knowing what to pay attention to. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some people out there that are really good at this. They live and die for it. But there are also an equal number of people who just aren't comfortable with doing this research or making these decisions on their own. These are the people that I think I can help.
Well, I think so too, because I know for me, I think a lot of us can be challenged when we measure success, partly because when we talk about investment goals and the importance of investing to achieve them, we focus on the actual dollars rather than how close or how far away we are from reaching our end goal. We're not emotionally connected to our goals.
Joanne, that's exactly what we're talking about. For example, when I say $10,000, what emotion does that bring to mind? But if I talk to people about taking a $10,000 vacation, and we start by talking about what your room is going to look like, what you expect your view out of your room to be, maybe what the temperature or weather is going to be like, the foods, the wines, the company of good friends, now we're emotionally connected. And here's the key. The better advisors help you stay emotionally connected in both good times and bad.
It's about managing expectations and investment behavior, isn't it?
It's human nature. You know, if you've lost money on a class of investments before, it's likely you're going to be reluctant to include that in your portfolio again, even if it was the right type of investment to be part of the mix. When constructing an investment portfolio, it's important to be reminded not to take your eye off of appropriate asset allocation strategies.
Well, this is where trust would be established between you and your advisor as well. So what is actually asset allocation, and why is strategy so important?
Getting the asset mix right is key to achieving long-term financial success, and I really can't overstate just how absolutely important this is to your long-term performance. Yet, clients suffer from decisions that hurt their portfolio performance, and I think it could be helpful to relate money choices back to goals and purposes, not just performance numbers. You may want your asset allocation strategy to include fixed income, those are the interest-bearing investments, equities or stocks, and yes, I said equities, and international holdings. Getting the mix right with proper diversification, that's the key.
It's all about balance. So we tend to chase performance a lot more and end up losing sight of that bigger picture. Is that what you're saying?
Unfortunately, I see it happening. When I speak to clients about putting a portfolio together, I'd like to frame investment decisions in a way that will increase the likelihood that you're going to stick with your plans even when markets fluctuate. And I have to say this again, asset allocation makes sense. If only we could stick with it.
You know, as I've been listening to the show today, what I've been hearing is it's important to talk to your advisor about what risks could keep you from accomplishing your goals and what you can actually do to reduce them. I think I've also heard that while investment selection, investment criteria, and objectives are all important, the real work and real value comes from exploring the hows and whys of all the decisions you make about your money.
Joanne, I couldn't have said it better myself. Typically, a good financial plan looks at cash flow planning, different types of insurance and risk management tools, retirement and estate planning. Tax planning is also a big part of the equation, and it's not the same type of work your accountant does. Your plan explores strategies essential for meeting your financial goals.
Jim, I really appreciate how you address the idea that we work with an advisor to help simplify what we need to focus on and things that we should ignore. And I've heard you make this example many times throughout the show today. When it comes to becoming money smart, where do you suggest we start?
If there's any lasting message I'd like to offer today, it's first thing I want to say is it's never too late to start. Don't be embarrassed. Ask lots of questions. Consider working with a financial planner who's interested in taking the time to help you understand and explain things and how the choices fit your life. Regaining financial independence means taking charge of your financial future. You may not have all the tools today, but with my help, if you want things to be different, it could be as simple as a phone call to get started.
It's pretty clear how much you value the trust that people put in you and how much hard work you put in as an advisor. What messages would you like to leave with us today?
I think it's important for advisors to explain the importance of not overreacting to market volatility by selling. Many of us are fearful of making a temporary decline become a permanent loss, and we're compelled to act. Imagine how your investment actions might be gauged by a discussion that went something like this. Taking on the right amount of risk is important. For a client who has $1 million portfolio, I might ask, what would you do if your portfolio dropped to $700,000? If they react in a way that suggests they'd want to sell to make sure that they didn't lose the rest, they're going to need more conservative investments. Now, if you haven't had a discussion like this with your advisor, I'd be concerned.
It's a good point. Leaves us with a lot to think about as well. And I think when it comes down to the integrity of that client-advisor relationship, you need to have all of those types of conversations, whether or not how tough they are. I know a lot of people don't want to hear the negative side of things, but I don't think it serves anybody well to avoid that conversation either.
If you're not comfortable with your investment knowledge or your understanding of risk or what it means to you and your family, ask your advisor to take the time to explain it to you in a way that makes sense. Remember, it's your job to ask questions, and I can't say this often enough, it's your advisor's job to answer them.
It's not enough to know something. You need to do something, and you need to take action on it. So I also think people are very uncomfortable with change. If you're not where you want to be financially, I urge you to give Jim a call, 604-682-5431. And my advice would be, make sure you ask a lot of questions. Jim, a couple of points as we close up today.
And please remember the 3 T's. Time, to do the research and anticipate the tax consequences. Technique, knowing what you're doing, and that includes knowledge. And of course, temperament, which means emotional control.
Thanks for sharing with us today, Jim Doyle. You're listening to Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton. Today, we've been speaking with Jim Doyle, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group, and we've been speaking about helping people redefine what financial advice means to regain confidence in their financial futures. That would be your financial future. On the next show, tune in to hear about some back-to-school and educational planning tips. Thanks for joining us today. This is Boomer Life on CL 650. And if you want more information about Jim, I suggest you go to his website as well. Have a visit, jimdoyle.ca, or you can always give him a phone call. The number one more time is 604-682-5431. Thanks for listening.